It's 5 o'clock. We're gonna call this meeting to order and we're gonna open the floor for public comment. Anybody in there? Nope. All right. We're gonna move on to the RPL staff guest.
So this was a suggestion that Andy asked to have on the agenda, and just to have the staff member come and tell a little bit about what they do. And since Ben is here, we're also gonna have him talk a little bit about the phone system options. So.
Oh, great.
It's probably the more interesting part.
So sure.
I don't know. Stand up.
No.
So my name is Ben Sprague. I'm the circulation supervisor by title here at the library. So under that moniker, I take care of a lot of questions that come up with just day-to-day circulation stuff, questions from patrons about fines, overdues, trying to be one person on staff that kind of knows all the ins and outs of our circulation software and can be the go-to person for questions if there's any difficulties that come up, that sort of thing. I also take care of kind of like first line IT stuff. So a lot of the stuff that would maybe be handled by staff over at Winnefox, I can take care of a lot of that stuff here. I know they've expressed in the past that they're very appreciative to not have our library also be part of the pool of libraries and technologies that they need to take care of. Quite often that ends up with me kind of being not necessarily the guinea pig, but finding potential issues with kind of new features or new services that they're rolling out. I tend to be one of the first people that will kind of notice something like, I don't know that this is working quite right, and I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, okay, we took care of it.
You've been here
It's,
since?
I've been here since 2000. It's nice. It's very easy for me to remember when I started. My first day was Halloween in 2000.
Is that a coincidence
Yeah.
or intention?
Just how things worked out.
Well, you've helped me a lot in IT upstairs, just personal requests, I appreciate it.
And you also oversee interlibrary loan.
Yes,
So that's another big
interlibrary
part
loan
of
is
your
part of
job.
that. So anything that's not already part of our Winnefox system, I take care of the patron side of placing requests and sending, managing requests for that. A lot of the processing for that was shifted back to Winnefox, and then they've recently kind of shifted a lot of that back up to us. So I don't know if it was just kind of, they were overwhelmed with how much they were doing for the behind the scenes part of that. But most of the requests, most of the interlibrary loan process is back to our staff here now.
How many requests for ILO do you get? Come on.
How many
It
questions?
depends. I could probably leave out one or two
Interlibrary.
patrons and the number would be much smaller.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell. I used to keep track of them just on a spreadsheet, but the new system is actually much easier for me to use or for me to handle. There's a lot less processing that we have to go through, but I don't have just raw numbers for that. It's probably like 20 or so a month at least.
I think it was
I know.
around 250 to 300 on the annual report that it looked like was
probably
ILO,
more
not
than that,
not
yeah.
Winnefox. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I know past years we would have around like 300, 350 a year, give or take.
And I think this is like a great superpower that not everybody knows about for libraries. Like, just because it's not in our catalog, you can get a book from like anywhere, essentially. Maybe not like if there's a copy at Harvard and the Dutch library, whatever, but otherwise.
Right.
You never know. When people ask about that, I've had material shipped from a library on an island in Alaska. So I mean,
Oh, well,
if it's out there, there's a good chance we can get it from somewhere.
cool.
And then Ben's gonna talk a little bit about our phone system options, and we'll talk about that later then with either infrastructure or finance, but he'll give his expertise on that right now, so.
Oh, I should just throw out there that I'm also taking care of the library's board game program, which has really taken off in Manchester. There's a couple of board members that have been to some of our programs or helped out with programs or are going to be helping out with programs coming up later this year. So we're very excited to see the patron interest in that continue to rise. Let's see. So yeah, the phone system. We had a technician from, I don't know if they're specifically from Brightspeed, but that's who is currently providing our service at the library. We're the only city department that is still with Brightspeed. Everyone else has been switched over to Spectrum's phone service. There is a company called Spectrum VoIP which is not associated with Spectrum, even though Spectrum also offers VoIP service. VoIP is voice over IP for anyone who isn't familiar with that. So that can be kind of confusing. The technician that was here kind of did a band-aid fix on our current system. Our current system was installed in 2007. It's a Nortel Norstar system. Nortel no longer exists. They haven't existed as an entity for quite a while. The company that took over them has gone through bankruptcy a couple of times, so there is no path for repair or direct upgrade path through Nortel or anything like that. The technician suggested looking into replacing the system as soon as we really can, because it's kind of put a band-aid fix on it for now, and it's just a matter of time before more stuff gradually starts failing. It's also just kind of a cumbersome system to use. It was set up initially, and we don't really have any documentation on how to change configurations, so like anytime we've had a new staff member come in, I've had to look up information online on how to go into the system, create new accounts, set up voicemail boxes, things like that. It's also kind of confusing because we have an internal voicemail system and an external voicemail system. So if we don't answer the phone, it goes to Brightspeed's automated voicemail system. If we do answer the phone, then it's an internal system that things get transferred to. It's kind of a mix of different systems. We have a few options for replacing it. So one is to stay with Brightspeed for our phone service and just replace it with a current internal phone system. So they still exist. There's some companies making new phones and new systems, companies that have been around for 15 or 20 years. So it's not just like leftover parts or anything like that.
So there's nothing wrong with the landlines themselves,
Yes.
so
Correct.
those are okay.
The issue with the current system was apparently a fault or a defect with the particular model of phone system that eventually the ports for the lines coming into the box would get fried just from the voltage that comes in when the phone rings. So they were able to put some kind of, they wired in resistors which were supposed to fix the problem. At some point someone took the resistors out of the connection for line 1, which then of course didn't prevent that line from wearing out. A new phone system that we would have complete control over, that we would have installed kind of as a one-time thing, would probably run around $1,500. That includes replacing all the phones in the system right now. We'd have to have someone come in and do the installation, just because nothing that's in our equipment closet is plug and play. It's all hardwired into the current system. So that's one option. We continue with the current Brightspeed service that we have, which is about $350 a month. That's for 4 lines into the building right now. So we have 2 lines for just the library. We have an emergency line for the elevator, and then we have a fax line. One option with the fax line is just to go to an internet fax service, which we don't go to a different phone system that includes that feature. I think that's a good way to save at least part of that Brightspeed bill. Plans for internet faxing start at under $20 a month. And there's essentially just an email address that we would send documents to that get faxed out. The second option, which is what the city went to about 2 years ago, is to go with a voice over IP solution. The city went with Charter, or Spectrum now. They had asked us about switching at the time. They severely underestimated the number of phones and phone mailboxes and things like that we have at the library. They thought we had 2 phones at the front desk, and that served the entire building. We actually, I think, we only had 9 extensions and a couple of part-time desk staff that share a phone. They don't have their own voicemail boxes at the time. I did get a rough estimate from Spectrum this afternoon. So they bill like per extension. There's a monthly fee. They have 1 user per phone, so you don't really have the flexibility to add mailboxes and things like that. The other wrinkle with that is we cannot use any voice over IP systems with our current internet service. The security and the protocols that we have for going through Minifox and all of that is incompatible with any voice over IP services. One library in our system found that out the hard way. Did not talk to the Winifox IT staff. Went and bought a phone system, had it installed. It wouldn't work, and they were just out of luck. The rough estimate I got from Spectrum was about $300 a month for the phone service itself, because they would also have to install a parallel internet service and network, it would be about another $60 or so a month for that, for the lowest speed plan that they offer. Can't say for sure, I'm guessing those are probably introductory rates for the internet service. Spectrum seems to always have lower introductory rates, and then after a year or so, those go up a bit. So, price would be comparable to what we're paying now. That would also include new phones, because that's part of like their monthly billing. They have a fax service that would cover include the line for the elevator. I checked with City Hall, and depending on the code for where you live, landlines sometimes are still required for internet or for elevator emergency lines. But apparently, it's fine to use the voice over IP system here. Those are really our two main solutions. We looked into kind of the possibility of going to all mobile phones, but I think the price is just, it's going to be hard to consolidate a like shared phone system that way. So yeah, those are two main options at this time.
Do you have a recommendation, Ben?
It all depends. If I get a more concrete quote from Spectrum. There are a lot of services that offer the voice over IP service. They either require coming in and installing a new network. Oh, there was a $500 one-time installation fee from Spectrum to set everything up.
Sure.
There are some other services that offer that, but the connection is through a cell phone connection. So essentially, they install a wireless router, and their phones are also wireless, so they don't have to install a new wired network within the building. Some of those systems, I don't know if Spectrum includes this, but the one other service I looked at also includes essentially a mobile app. So for staff members who want to be able to access our work phones or work phone lines, they would have an app on their phone that they could dial in or dial out as if they were calling from the library. So if someone's working from home, they would have direct access to that.
So we would end up having two internets, one for the library, for Winnifox, for our computers, staff computers, public computers, all that has to be separate because of their protocols and stuff.
Security.
Winnifox's security
It's different.
doesn't allow, it's incompatible.
Sure.
It's different than everybody else apparently. And then we would have a second for all the voice
Just
internet phone system. Because the old one, just to be clear, is falling apart, literally.
The hardware, yeah.
Right, it's all falling apart. It is 16, 17 years old in another era of technology, I suppose. So we should get it fixed. We should replace the old system. I think it's just gone. So maybe we need a little bit more concrete of a proposal.
Right,
Before we
he's
move.
done a lot of digging just this
Yeah,
afternoon.
it sounded like it was a little bit more you want to dig into, Ben, is that correct?
Yeah, I want to get more definite numbers for like how many phones we want to have, how many, it's not just a question like of how many phone extensions we want, it's also like how many people do we want to have their own mailboxes, because it sounds like they're limited to like one mailbox per phone.
No.
So if you want someone to have a mailbox, you need to have a phone dedicated for that, because all of their charges are all wrapped into like one phone, one user, one mailbox.
I can see how that was kind of a problem.
Yeah. Well, initially, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, initially, like I said, City Hall thought we only had a couple of phones here. Like,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
got
save a bunch of money, and then when they did the math for how many phones and things we actually need, they're like, it's gonna be way more than you're paying now. It's like,
Right.
we're trying to tell you.
Right.
I've got to imagine a non-VoIP option is going to be astronomically higher than the VoIP option. Is that maybe a smart observation?
Well, it depends, because that would be the system one of the systems that I saw for like a 10 extension system. So you replace the equipment, replace all the phones, uses the existing lines that we have, so we don't have to run new phone lines within the building. So that was about $1,500. plus a one-time installation fee for someone to come out and do the rewire things downstairs. And then that would just continue with our current Brightspeed landlines.
Right, okay. Which doesn't require an internet service, a separate internet service.
Right.
Okay.
But
And how much would that be a month then, Ben? You say the 1,500 for the new equipment plus the installation fee, what's the monthly?
Right now, we're paying about $350 a month. I'm trying to find out from City Hall what the difference would be if we get rid of the fax line. But yeah, that's,
But so we'd be using the old-fashioned copper lines then? Am I correct about that?
Yeah.
Ones that they want to tear out eventually. So,
I will add a small little note that Desiree kind of let me know that this was potentially going to be an agenda item. And so I reached out to Sandy Scamhorn and the RLA, and they put a request to review if they would be willing to cover that cost on their March meeting agenda. So there's the potential that a piece or the entire cost for this phone upgrade could be covered by RLA. So
Because they paid for it the last time in 2007, so.
one thing with Spectrum, and I'm sure a lot of the systems are the same way, it is based on like a 5-year contract. So if you don't want to sign up for that length of time, it would be a higher monthly rate.
so, but it would be locked in for 5 years.
Yeah, well, and I told them it's not like we're planning on jumping from phone system to phone
Yeah.
system. We've got this one for 17 years now, so it's,
How quickly do we need to make a decision?
I mean, the current system is working, but if anything happens to it, we can't get replacement parts for it. We can't get, we haven't had to replace any phones recently, but the phones we have, we don't have any spares. So if anything happens to a phone, then we're gonna start shrinking, the availability of that within the building. The technician that was here, he got called in from, I think, Berlin. He's like the only person in
Yeah.
whatever service area that even knows how to repair these older systems that we have. And he was just kind of had he gave me an impression that it's like, if you can do it, the sooner you can do it, the better. Because he said he didn't think we should put any more money into the existing system.
okay.
That's good to hear. Yeah. So how quickly do we want to get this done, everyone?
Good question.
I think this should.
Ben, Ben, do you think you could have an answer for next month?
Maybe we can move this discussion to later when we talk about the creation of the infrastructure committee and finance committee update. Because that kind of ties in with that. So I think we'll move on to the next agenda item, approve minutes of the January 30th, 2024 meeting. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Any thoughts, questions, feedback, or can I get a motion on the January 30th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, thank you. Now we're gonna receive the report from the library director.
So just a couple of other things. I mentioned that Debbie Konechny has fallen. It might not be around for a few months. She is home in Ripon, though. She also,
Who is that?
Debbie Konechny, the book sale coordinator. And she also did mention recently that she will be transitioning to moving to Colorado within the next year or two. So we are trying to succession plan for the book sale and who's gonna take that over. So I wanted to let you know that we are hosting the Ripon Area School District an art show of theirs. So they'll be setting up Wednesday night. It'll be up for about a month in the children's area mainly, so it's a sketchbook show. Just a heads up that Winnebago County has asked me to verify my residence because I may be called for jury duty this year, so just, yeah. And then if anybody has any questions, if you've seen in the news, Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, there were 2 resolutions regarding creation of a restricted section where children were not allowed, and also a second resolution about the libraries and their participation in ALA and any of its affiliates. Those were originally scheduled for tonight. They were pulled from the agenda. There have been some news articles out there, so if anybody wants any more information, I can talk to you about that after the meeting, so.
Do we know when they'll be added on to future agenda?
It's unsure. The person who proposed them is not running for re-election, so it's my understanding she has one more meeting to add them back.
Okay.
There has not been a lot of support for them otherwise, and Claire Ellen has been, at Winham Fox has been spending like a lot of time on this the last week, so. And I'm sure you've heard about it, right, yeah. So,
Okay. All right,
just so that people are aware.
Sure. Any questions or comments on the director's report?
Question. How often is the Beanstalk reading tracker app used?
We are using that for our 1,000 books before kindergarten participants, so it's got low use. But, and that was it. We stopped using it for the summer reading program because we wanted people to participate in the building, so.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to review payments of the February 2024 invoices.
Oh, yeah, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, is there any way we could track the month-to-month energy of Alliance? Is anything, I mean, that's $3,000. I don't think it's really out of whack, but do we have any idea, any way of tracking that month to month, how it fluctuates, it stays the same?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you kind of know what the bill is. Could you provide that, say it was the last year?
Yeah.
Next meeting. I'm just curious, I know it's gonna be hard to really get a nice sense, but I just kind of want.
Seems high.
Well, I know it's gone up a line, just like, you know, the Greedflation, we need more money for our board of directors, or our president or CEO's gotta have more money. But, I just kind of want an idea, because I know we did the LED lighting, but that was what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
That was 2020 during COVID when we were closed.
Yeah, 4 years ago. And so I know that dropped some, but then, you know, as it dropped down, here's, you know, a line itching that back up. I'm just kind of wondering the month to month, how it's going, and, you know, how's the summer look with the air conditioning units and all this, and, you know, I just kind of wanted a sense of that.
Yeah, I keep the spreadsheet.
Okay. And then I had another thing here. What are we getting at ACE, if I could ask?
Oh, random things like garbage bags and salt and things like that, shovel, you know, if we need little minor tools. Our shovel broke this year, so
Oh,
Okay.
that was one of them.
you know, really, that shovels could be $30. Okay, I'm good, thanks.
Good.
All right. Anybody on Zoom have any questions, comments?
No,
Nope. All right. We're gonna move on to the next item, review the 2023 annual report and approve it. The statement regarding system leadership. Go ahead.
Lauren, could you perhaps tell some of the board members that maybe aren't familiar with what this annual report is about and why we have to file it?
Sure. So the DPI, Department of Public Instruction, requires public libraries to submit this every year to track success, to track revenue, to track circulation numbers, kind of just to track overall health and wealth of all public libraries.
And it's so that libraries have a place to go if you're looking for comparisons, so they do try to,
Data.
I mean, they try to collect data that's all apples to apples and not apples to oranges, so. If you wanna see how you stack up compared to your peers.
Yeah, so there's, I mean, you talked about ILLs, the interlibrary loans, there's data on that in here. Salary data,
Funding, I assume.
And then funding is the big component,
yeah.
so.
you can see that all the board members are listed. So just kind of a well-rounded picture of the library. So essentially, we're reviewing it and then ultimately approving this to be able to be submitted to.
Right, and they also ask if you're satisfied with the services that you've been getting from your library system, so.
Yes, okay.
So that is what the board has to approve. And this year we don't have any complaints about Winfox, so.
All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? I know it's a long document, so.
I thought it looked good.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstained? Okay, thanks everybody.
And you need to sign it before you go.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item, discuss the revised draft of the peanut-free policy.
So Lud did have a few changes, and this is the draft that he sent back, so.
Who sent it back?
Ludward's, the city attorney, we asked that the city attorney review it, so this is his recommendation.
Is that what's changed?
I know he added the line, library staff shall take all reasonable efforts to enforce this policy, and he cut out some of the wording that I had thrown in there previously, so.
Did Lud mention, or do we know of other facilities or businesses in the area that have a prohibition on,
I didn't ask about that.
do we know of any other?
I know the college is primarily peanut-free. There are certain pockets, like they have a food trailer that can have peanuts because they have a special permission. But most of the college food service is peanut-free. Most of RASD is peanut-free, if not all of it. I know like Discovery Preschool is peanut-free. So I know a lot of like education institutions are primarily peanut-free.
So take Ripon College, do they have signs that say no peanuts please, or do they say it's absolutely prohibited, which is what?
To be honest, I don't know. I just know
This
I
is
was
a
talking
prohibition.
recently with the catering director about it.
And do you guys know of any place you go in and it says absolutely no peanuts?
I seen a few.
I mean, I've seen like nut-free facility, like it's literally the picture of a peanut with a circle cross
Yeah.
and it says nut-free facility.
Could we just have something like that rather than passing a law?
Well,
I think that the Pilgrim Center, the church, well, no, it's Daytrola Center now. The church camps are, I think camps are where there's a lot of kids. And that's what we have here, is a lot of kids.
What's your
think you would-
concern with the policy?
You would do both, I mean, having a sign without the policy, or having a policy without the sign, I mean, you would do, I would anticipate we'd be putting the sign up after we
Posting,
approve the
yeah.
policy, so, I mean, I always, even last time, I'm glad, my question was, is Lud good with it, Ron, Lud good with it, I'm good with it, but,
Let's
If-
look.
yeah, he's a city attorney, and he modified this, and so if he's good with it, I'm good with it, and it's a library for crying out loud, I mean, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
bringing a lunchbox and with all kinds of stuff and snacking and stuff, and it just, I don't have an issue with
I
it.
love peanuts, but I wouldn't do it here.
Yeah, I do too, I mean, it's just,
And I know it's one of the most common allergies, and it could be all over the
Life-threatening.
place of what could happen. To anaphylactic shock to just a mild case, so I don't have an issue.
I know New York City for a time, they were banning soft drinks over a certain, the big gulp.
Fox, yeah.
I just don't think it's our business to do that. A couple of my concerns. Do not allow peanuts, products made from peanuts, or products with peanut oil on the premises. My goodness, I mean, are they gonna go in my briefcase and check it?
I mean, I don't think so. I think.
Really?
It's the last line that says it's a reasonable effort.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah, it says reasonable efforts to enforce the policy. I lived through COVID, going in I won't mention which library. And it's good to take masks seriously, but I'm fearful somebody would search my briefcase. But here's my question, for peanuts, here's my question. Shall take all reasonable efforts to enforce this policy. Two-part question. Who's gonna enforce it? How? What are you gonna do? Search, it's not me. Are you gonna search their briefcase?
I think searching somebody's briefcase, backpack, person is unreasonable. But if somebody is sitting at a computer and there's a Reese's cup next to them and any staff member walks by and is familiar with the policy, if it's in place, can simply state, this is a nut-free facility, can you please dispose of that?
And that makes sense. But this goes farther. You know, we could say, please don't have peanuts out openly or peanut product. This is not on the premises. So all reasonable enforcement, I'll repeat the question. How is the librarian going to enforce this? If people are affected by peanuts that they can't really see, but they're being affected by.
Yeah.
All right?
So just to go backwards a little bit, what the reason that we're considering this is because we have a staff member who has a severe peanut allergy, correct?
Right, that was the impetus for.
And there are others, I'm sure. But you're right, that's the reason.
Yeah, do we in general tell people that they cannot have food in the library?
No, we only ask they not have food by the computers, otherwise they're allowed to bring in food.
So they can have food in the building?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and we opened, meeting rooms to be an available option for birthday parties, gatherings, et
Well, we
cetera.
always let nonprofit groups come and cater,
Right.
so.
Right. So thinking about, a kid's birthday party with, I don't know, peanut, whatever, something with peanuts in it.
Breck, your concern is that it's just it's over the top of control, or can you articulate more about your concern?
Well, I don't use the library as much as I used to. I used to carry a little packet of peanuts in any briefcase that I had. I can see how that could trouble somebody, but I don't use the library much anymore. But I'm thinking of patrons that would come in with peanuts. I'm thinking maybe of a party on the premises, because there are functions on the premises besides library staff. I've been asked to be on the social committee. I won't have peanuts for that for sure, but people might have peanuts. Do we really want to move to a prohibition? How about a recommendation? How about, out of the goodness of our hearts, bending over backwards to accommodate the person or persons without passing a law that says prohibited on the premises, anything to do with peanut oil? I can't have a candy bar.
Well, that's a good point.
I
There's
mean,
peanut oil in everything.
signs will be properly posted, and I think groups that are wanting to use facilities will be
It'll
told.
be put in the meeting room
Right,
policy.
yep, it'll
And
be
I
put in the
think that's
meeting.
enough. I don't think you have to pass legislation approved by a lawyer that says you can't bring peanuts on the premises. And I think I've said enough. I'll let you guys decide.
Are there
But
any
then-
other?
But then how do we justify putting it in the rules for the meeting room if we haven't passed a prohibition? Or,
Haven't we had signs before, please don't have peanuts?
I don't think we
No,
have,
we
no.
don't.
There are plenty of facilities out there that have signs peanut free, but they don't make it a prohibition saying it's prohibited in this area. Approved by lawyers.
I think if we're gonna have signs out, we need a policy to support it, and if we're gonna have a policy, we need signs to, they need to go hand in hand.
Yeah,
And
I
if
would
it's gonna
agree.
be mentioned
And
in
if
the
it-
meeting room policy, then we need the policy. The peanut policy.
If we don't have this policy, if we don't have this policy, will that employee no longer continue to work at the library because of the risk of the peanuts?
I don't think so. I guess my concern is if somebody brings peanuts in and she has a reaction to it, like she did one time, and thankfully it was mild, I mean, we may have to have an emergency closure of the library because of that, so. You know, because she works some shifts where it's just her and a high schooler,
Well, and
so it
that-
can't be open if she's incapacitated.
Yeah, but as someone, if she's a person who, having people in my family that can have an anaphylactic reaction from ingesting like an almond, my mother had that allergy. She always had an EpiPen because you just didn't know, sometimes if you ordered something, it still could creep in there. So it was really, the onus was on her to protect herself. And so if this person has a life-threatening peanut situation, then that's something that if it's my child, I'm gonna be saying, hey, we gotta make sure you protect yourself in the world from the peanut situation. I'm just throwing that out as a,
Okay,
as,
I like that approach that,
in the interest of time, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, I think I open the floor for a motion and we vote.
I have one more question that I raised last time. Let's say that the law is passed and it's against the law to have peanut oil anywhere in candy bars, anything. And let's say at a function, someone brings peanut oil, and let's say the person, I don't know who it is, dies. What happens to the person that accidentally brought the peanut oil on campus? Knowing, or maybe not knowing, it was against the law. Do we want to put this in legal terms like that?
I mean, if they've signed the meeting room policy and have acknowledged that they've read it, and LUD has approved wording on this, then I think we're supported in, I don't know, I don't like thinking about somebody dying, so. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
It's not a law, it's a policy. And the policy says all reasonable efforts. No one's gonna go through your backpack unless we see the peanut wrappers around you, then we'll ask you about it, and then we'll ask you to remediate the situation, because not only would we have a staff member potentially have a reaction, but there could be other people in the library also.
Okay,
Now,
can I get a motion?
I love peanuts, so I'll make a motion to accept the Ripon Public Library peanut-free policy.
I'll second.
I will second that, okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say aye.
Opposed?
Any? Mary, you're
I say-
opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay,
Yeah.
any abstained? Okay. I get it's contentious, but I don't think that this will turn off anybody from using the library.
If there's a problem, we can revisit the situation. I think that's very reasonable to do that, so 6 months from now, we have something that just blows up, we can revisit it and work it out.
Right.
Or
Not
staff
doing
member
anything, I think.
leaves.
Or if staff leaves, then we can, but there's nothing set in stone here. We've approved it, we'll move on. Okay. We're gonna receive an update on the grant application and opportunities.
That's the advantage of voting. Settle the issue.
Okay, so the first grant that we applied for, I know we had talked about that there is no timeline, and I went back to the website just to verify that, and it does say there is no set timetable for the notification of awards. So we won't know
Okay.
when we've gotten it or not. There is a new opportunity coming out that I did include the link in the director's report that we are planning to apply to. Ben at MSA has been keeping us in the loop. He sent a couple of emails yesterday and today about it, so the guidelines and the application form is not out yet. It should be out in March or April, with applications due in either May or June and notification taking place by July.
And that's specifically a call to libraries, right? That one?
And 25% of the fund, so this is a federal fund, but it's allocating money to each of the states, so I think the pot of money that Wisconsin has is $107 million, and 25% of that is allocated to libraries. So yes, so it is more specific to libraries. So we definitely want to apply. They don't have a cost yet for MSA to help us and do the grant application on our behalf. So the board could talk about it and make a motion of up to X number of dollars if it,
So
depending on what
anything
came
under
in.
$3,000, Desiree can make the executive decision without board approval to have somebody support us in that regard. So I don't know if we as a board want to approve up to 4, 5, whatever.
What did we spend, what did we spend for the last one?
3, right?
2,500.
25.
So
500?
we have a sense how much it's gonna cost us? Do we have a lot of the work done?
No, he said today that he didn't know. I mean, that they were working on a funding proposal for us, but because the grant guidelines and application isn't out yet, they don't know exactly what they're being asked for. But yes, they do have some of the work done because they were working with Merrick
So-
and Rick Anderson to get the specs.
Should we make a motion up to 5,000?
I'm good with that. To me, this is an absolute no-brainer. If they are specifically honing in on public libraries, we need to go get it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we, spend up to $5,000 with MSA for,
A second.
for this, what's the specific grant name? We need to have that. Which one is it? It's the, hold on.
Flexible facilities.
The flexible facilities grant.
Okay, I'll make it, it's a friendly amendment to the flexible facilities, grant from the state of Wisconsin.
Mary, you second that, right?
Yes, she
I
did.
second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Great. Any other updates or bits on the grants?
No.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move to discuss the creation of an infrastructure committee.
This was Andy's suggestion.
So following last meeting, I heard lots of discussion about we failed to do our job. We didn't have a good eye on what was going on in the library. So I thought we should talk about it. Do we need an infrastructure committee? Is this more your role, Desiree? Is this something the director does? Should he be giving us this kind of information? Is it our job? Whose job is it? So I was hoping to clarify those questions.
Valuable questions. Go ahead, Carrie.
Infrastructure, meaning the phones we just talked about, the roof, windows, what are we talking about infrastructure? I mean,
To build.
The physical plan,
Right.
yeah.
everything, front to back, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So I think everything and more that this memo addresses would fall to if we created the infrastructure committee's overview, I guess.
So this infrastructure committee, would they be working with the city to address some of these needs and to help ask for guidance about who
Working with the
to
city,
hire
working with the finance committee,
and addressing these things and keeping track of them,
prioritize list,
prioritize
MOU.
list. I mean, it's a building. I mean, it doesn't matter what we or haven't done to it in the past. These are needs that are gonna happen anyway. You know, things are just like the phone system. It's just, it works until it doesn't. Oh, we haven't been paying attention to it. I mean, we got a lot of use out of it, not to tell you, okay? So, but it's time to move on with that phone system. So these are kinds of things that we have to make decisions on, and we don't always have all the money that we need. And we always prioritizing something until something is a little bit more critical, then we have to jostle it around. So I personally think that's a good idea. Some group that will actually sit down and look at everything on a monthly basis and see what do we know about the carpeting, about the roof, when's that been inspected, and all these units here, what kind of prioritized list, and keeping that before the board and figuring how things are gonna be paid for.
Does anybody have any feelings against an infrastructure committee? Go ahead, Gary.
I guess I'd like to add to it that we've got a requirement to create a capital improvement plan that's due to the city, a 5-year plan. So that, in my estimation, would be part and parcel of what the infrastructure committee would be involved with responding to that requirement from the city.
Carrie.
In addition, the city defined in the
MOU.
MOU, thank you, that they would pay for, that their primary responsibility is building and grounds, and us as the agency and with our agency partners we, the library, have to come up with funding for staff, equipment, and programs. And that we are responsible to come up with alternative funding sources for those things. That's what I read in that agreement, along with this capital improvement plan. So it seems like all of this rolls into this need for some really strong emphasis on the physical plant and who's got those, who's got that skill set to really dig into that stuff.
You just hit the nail right on the head, Mary, and that's my concern is, I mean, none of us are experts in any of this stuff, probably, I mean, you know, I might have one of the closest, you know,
Right.
thought process of this, but my idea is different than Andy's, different than Doug's, different than yours, and I'm a fussy guy, and I could go around and tell you this, this, and this, and this, and it's never gonna happen, because, you know, my idea is different than yours, or your expectations are different than mine. You know, roof and windows and doors and phones, I mean, I played with phones and stuff, and, you know, but I'm not technical into that stuff, I'm not electronic and stuff, but I just don't think, I mean, the city has public works director, I mean, they have, you know, experts, you know, that can look at stuff, and to me, it's their building anyways, and this kind of ties into the MOU. When I read the MOU, I'm like, you know, I'm not happy with it, because to me, it's their building. You know, if we were renting this building from the city for $2,000 a month, they're the landlord. Water heater goes, city fix it. Door goes, city fixes it. You know, if we decided, you know, put out there and somebody donated space for the library to use, and the library decided to leave in 6 months and went someplace else, you know, in our community, this is the city's building, what are they gonna do with it? They're gonna maintain it, they're gonna take care of it, and it's just, you know, it's, I think, the board and our responsibility and fundraising and stuff to take care of the library. I mean, this is what this board, in my eyes, should be doing, not this building stuff. I mean, to me, that's not something that is, I wouldn't wanna put that on any of you guys in the table or on TV, because, you know, Janet, you wanna go with me every month and walk around and I'll point out stuff for the building, and are you gonna get any of it or understand any of it? I mean, it just, you know, even the phone stuff, I mean, electronic stuff, I could say, well, geez, that thing looks really old, we gotta get something a lot newer and nicer, but, you know, I can't tell you how long something's gonna last, you know. Water heater's been replaced, you know, they go, you never know when they go, they just leave when they want to leak. Go ahead,
Andy,
Doug.
well, I wanna hear from Andy
Okay, go
first.
ahead.
Sure, so, my question is, where do you feel your role is in, with infrastructure goes, right? Like, what, as a library director, so we're here as the board for policy and overseeing finances, and I brought this up, but I also don't wanna get our hands in the dirt, like, that's not our job as board members, and so I don't wanna overstep our bounds, but if there's support that's needed, so at a higher level, how can you provide that? So I'm curious.
Right, I mean,
what's your role
it's not my
for the-
area of expertise either, and it's always, you know, before Adam, the previous city admin, it was, we don't wanna hear from you until it's broken. You know, they weren't proactive about replacing anything, so, you know, now that's changed, and Alan was here today with the camera taking pictures of that electric panel that's
Oh.
really old, so. So I guess I'm glad that there's an expert in the city that is willing to look at the library's building and help, because I've had no training. I have not ever had, like, you go to conference, there's never any training on buildings. I mean, I haven't had any training on what to look for in a boiler. You know, one of the things that we'll talk about under the finance committee update is discuss development of facilities master plan. So that would go to some of the things that Gary's talking about, where you hire a company that says, you know, this is the brand of water heater you have, this is about, on average, how many years it lasts, here's how old yours is, and it has this life expectancy. You know, so I think hiring a consultant to do that part of it, so that the board can then plan, you know, these are our priorities for what we need to replace, so.
Sure.
I guess my one thing with an infrastructure short term would be, because we're trying to juggle the renovation and, you know, and some of these priorities, just that it might make sense short term to have an infrastructure committee to help get everything sorted out.
Focus.
So, yeah, and focus, like, what is the top priority, let's get the capital improvements plan put together. You know, and then once we're in line, and we could ask Alan, it doesn't just have to be library board members, we could ask Alan or any other
Right.
community person to be on this committee. It doesn't just have to be
Right.
the board, so.
So I'm not suggesting we walk around once a month.
Right.
Well, I am suggesting that part of the board anyway be involved in knowing what things need to be funded, maybe even just looking at it, like the boiler and stuff like that, and getting a little bit of education. And no, it doesn't have to just be us or Desiree. We do have an assistant director of public works in ours that is starting pretty soon. That person perhaps, I don't know, that would be up to Adam and Alan to be involved in this. She has a lot of experience as a director of public works, so she probably has, and I'm just guessing because I've not met her, an idea of what we need to be doing here and help us prioritize what things need to be fixed and working on that capital improvement plan. And so I know it's a 5-year plan, but something that we don't know about could sneak up on us that we haven't detected or we thought was going to be fine. You know, boilers do go bad before their time. You know, hopefully they won't, but there are issues, right? Right, Gary? Things just sometimes go bad and you don't expect it because it wasn't on the darn plan. You know, that's not supposed to go bad for 10 years yet, and it's got bad today.
I think if we staff the committee with people who have knowledge, assistant public works director, if Alan wants to pop in occasionally, maybe even Ben or somebody who's
Alan.
familiar with the tech world.
Alan Danhoff, he's our DPW.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it can't be bad. I think it will help. It will help keep items in this memorandum about the physical plant in focus while also focusing on the renovation project, while also focusing on the strategic plan. It will kind of make sure that we don't let it just fall by the wayside. I think the good outweighs the bad. I'd be in favor of creating an infrastructure committee.
I think.
I don't,
Go ahead.
do you know if we could, I don't know that we can create a committee and then, volunteer a public works person to be on it. I think
Of course.
I look at it more as a liaison. So somebody from the board along with Desiree or a staff member, it could be anybody, but they're the people that inform themselves and become knowledgeable about the priorities and what needs to be done and work with. It looks like if we accept that MOU that they will be doing a lot of it. And so we just want to be aware and have input, right?
Well,
And I don't know that it's a committee. I don't know.
sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
We're financially responsible to, like today's decision, we're responsible to determine if there should be money allocated to a phone system. You know, that's a infrastructure question. So at the end of the day, it rolls back to the board for us to make those decisions about how to prioritize the use of funds based on, you know, the priorities about what needs to get fixed first, second, third, you know? And I think that's part of what they're trying to get us is to be more, you know, more long-term in focus, which is a good thing. And not to be surprised.
So
That's the way
jumping ahead just a touch, I know it's not really, but part of what we talked about with the city with the facilities master plan is hiring an organization, a company that has the expertise and the knowledge to do it on our behalf, working in conjunction with what we thought would be an infrastructure committee that would then bring information back to the board to then ultimately decide, vote, approve, whatever. So I think that was the idea. It doesn't need to be the ultimate idea, but I think that was initially the plan.
Why an outside organization rather than the public works person?
That was a recommendation from, well, we can talk about it. I guess we can roll into the next agenda item, receive an update from the finance committee. So it was the recommendation from Alan. So we met with Alan, Adam, myself, Desiree, and the mayor, Ted Grant was there, to talk about this memo. And Alan and Adam both recommended that we do an RFP process and ultimately find a business who is an expert in creating a facilities master plan and prioritizing this list. I don't really remember the reasoning why. Was it just because Alan only has so much time and knowledge to be able to do
The
it
city
on
has
his
just
behalf?
done one.
Right.
The city just did
I'm
one.
just gonna jump in there before you continue on, and what you just answered your own question. If we have a public works director that isn't knowledgeable enough to go through that stuff and expecting any of us to go through and do that just doesn't make sense. You know, when Mary just mentioned infrastructure, phone system, that I can see us as a board, I don't count that as infrastructure, you know, this is infrastructure. That's operations, a phone system, to me, is the library. If the building was just built and we were just moving in, they didn't put a phone system in for the library because everybody's situation and needs are different. So that would be our responsibility as a library board to put in a phone system for the library, what the needs are of the Ripon Public Library. Because our phone system's gonna be different than Oshkosh's or somebody else's. That to me is an infrastructure, that is operational. So if you wanted to create infrastructure, to me, should be the city and or if they wanna hire someone, that's up to them. It's their building. If they don't have the
Yes.
expertise in-house, how would they expect a volunteer board to have expertise in that? It just, to me, it's futile. I mean, it's
So I
just,
think that goes directly into the MOU, and this is an editable thing. This is not just we
No,
have to
it says
accept
draft
it
on
as
it,
is.
so that's a very good start. It can still be tweaked and changed a little bit and clarified. But, I mean, perhaps hiring someone to go help us go through here, because Alan only saw things that to him were red flags, but he's kind of a generalist with this stuff. Like, he thought the windows maybe could be replaced because they weren't up to snuff anymore. And that electrical panel, he's not an electrician, but he looked at it, it's really old, and we should maybe look at it with a professional. So it's like, I don't know how to replace an engine in a car, but I know you gotta change the oil, you gotta do a lot of other stuff. I may not do the brakes, but I know if they need to be fixed and what I'm paying for. So that's kind of what you've taken the library to someone who kind of has a solid idea of what we need to do.
Right, and both Egbert Anderson and MSA offered these types of services, and they've already both worked on library projects now, so those would be the two that we would focus on.
I would personally just go with MSA, that's just me, just because they've done an awful lot of work with the city, and they're very familiar with.
Well, I think we should get at least 2 bids, like.
That 2 bids is fine,
So-
I disagree with that.
Do you want to summarize a little bit about the meeting we had with the city, and then maybe it will tie back into infrastructure and facilities master plan MOU?
I mean, we talked through it, the big concern is the electrical panels, some of the HVAC things. Like I said, Alan was over here taking pictures of it today. They recommend doing the master plan because it would give us some of that information, like, here's what you have, here's your brand of air conditioner, here's how long this type of air conditioner typically lasts. Yours is X number of years old, it's within replacement, or you've gotten an extra 5 years out of it and it's way past its time to go, so it would help prioritize some of these things. And so I think that sounds like something we should do,
It also would possibly inform or alter the plans and specs we have for the renovation, right? Because if there's stuff that's discovered in the facilities master plan that will directly impact the way our design, is thinking for the renovation, that it will alter and change and update, and so they kind of work hand in hand together. I did ask Adam very pointedly, I said, so what happens with the MOU when it comes time to pay for these upgrades or pay for these repairs or, right, because it,
says right in there, we pay for it and they'll maybe reimburse us.
he said, come budget time, that's when you make the ask to the city, and
Well, I'm in an emergency, I guess.
Right,
It's
no,
something like an emergency.
like, we're talking about if we've prioritized this memo
Right.
and we're like, okay, for 2025, we wanna fix these 2 things, so we'll put it in the budget, and because they are familiar with this, then they can approve 1, both, half, however it works,
So
so.
like an air conditioning unit, they could say, okay, 2025, you're gonna get a new one,
Yeah, we kind of take
We'll
it.
pay for X amount of it, you guys gotta pay for the rest.
We take it bit by bit, and the prioritization part of it is what Adam and Alan suggested we hire an outside group to do.
Sure.
To go through with their expertise and knowledge and say, okay, this is like ringing alarm bells, this is code red, we gotta get it fixed within the next 2 years. This is in the next 5 years, this can probably wait 10 years, like that's what that outside group who has more of the scope and breadth of work to do that would be.
And then they can plan better too, so they might not have like $50,000 for an air conditioner in 1 year, but they might be able to portion it out, like we'll give you 10,000 a year and you can save it up. So
Yes,
he did
correct,
mention
yep,
that.
yep.
So in a sense, you could just create an equipment replacement fund or infrastructure replacement fund, which the city could just put money in every year at budget time, whether it's 5,000 or 8,000 or whatever, for their building here, and then just start taking stuff off the list when there's enough money to do project A or B or C or whatever.
In the meantime, there could be something that comes up that
Right.
we need to talk to them about, but the money's already there, and we'll just have to work that through.
Right.
If it, depending if they're competing problems.
That makes me a lot more comfortable, and I think that would make the most sense, to have a specific infrastructure replacement fund. And the city can put whatever they can
Feed
afford
it
to put in there every year. And then we can hire a company, make a list, and what's priority number one, okay?
So I will tell you that the RFP process and hiring a company is gonna be anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. The city just did it, and that was the range, so it's definitely not a small little project.
So the city did it for what?
I don't know that they gave me their number, I just wrote down the range.
I mean, what do they do it for?
Oh,
City Hall,
they,
Public Works, PD, Fire Department?
Do you remember what their facilities master plan was?
Probably
for?
everything.
I think it was just the entire.
Why was it not this building?
That is a very valuable question, Gary, and I don't know the answer.
It's
Because
their,
And I share your passion for-
There's no agreement yet, and one of the things, just to give us a little comfort, at the end of the MOU, they talk specifically about an unexpected repair or replacement. And when something like that comes up, like when the boiler blew X number of years ago, that they say that they will not, they shall not unreasonably withhold money in the event that we were to need their help.
it says we pay for it first, and then they would reimburse us and not unreasonably hold it against
Well,
us.
Well, they say specifically that if there's something that happens, an occurrence that could result in disruption of the services or the programs, or could be a dangerous situation, or there's a safety issue, that
The library should go ahead and fix it.
it said it should be considered initially a library expenditure with subsequent consideration by the council for a budget amendment or reallocation to fund such repair or replacement as requested by the library board. Such approval by the council to fund that repair shall not unreasonably be withheld. In other words, they're saying, we're gonna backstop you if you need us. That's the way I read this.
So,
We shouldn't stay closed for 6 months waiting to find out if they're giving us money. We need.
I don't think they would take.
so
No, but I'm just saying,
Oh,
like, they're
no,
saying we should
no.
go ahead with the repair, cause we wanna get back into service as soon as we can.
two
So-
things. I don't want this to open Pandora's box, and this can certainly be something that we talk about at our next meeting. But they did mention with regard to that sort of emergency repair would be initially a library expenditure with ultimately possibly a consideration that it is not an unwise decision for us to have a 30% contingency, 30% of operating budget contingency at OACF. And they expressed deep concern about the fund balance and how we chose right now. The board approved putting a large chunk of our OACF money into the renovation fund. And so, like I said, it's not an agenda item. I just wanted that to be put out there that I think we should have a beefy discussion at our next board meeting about if we need to reevaluate how we've chosen to allocate our money with this kind of MOU emergency fix in mind.
I think there are a fair number of libraries around the state that have such a policy. And so it would be fairly easy just to Google that and find fund balance policies or reserve policies of library, like, you know, down by Madison, or even modest-sized libraries have that, what they're going to do with that extra money they have.
The other thing I'll say is on the second page of the MOU, near the middle, where it says the library in collaboration with the city shall be responsible for establishing a building grounds 5-year capital improvement plan. I circled that, and I can't remember if it was Alan or Adam said, it will be easier come budget time for the city to justify and plan for repairs with the library's capital improvement plan and master plan in place. Cause they'll see the goals, they'll see the plan, they'll see
Council
that we've
likes
thought
to see
through it,
that.
they'll see it on paper, they'll see that we've invested the time and energy into like actually creating a plan.
They like to see that. We need to fix that. That's 2 years down the road. Let's start budgeting for that, or that's coming up and that's a $15,000 item. Let's work that in, and then we'll start working toward this. The library's gonna take care of X amount of that. We're gonna pay this amount, and we'll work together and we'll knock these things off. And if there's something that's way too much, we'll work with the city about how we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, the city used to, and Doug, I don't know if they still do, have an emergency fund of $20,000 or $30,000 a year, or something, God forbid, happened.
I have to look at the budget.
So, I mean,
It really started to drop before I left.
Yeah.
In
So,
2020.
I mean, they had that, so what, in a sense, Mary, what Mary was just talking about, if the boiler goes in February, and it's February like it normally is, and not this year, and it goes, then it's their building again, it's their furnace, they have an emergency fund. I don't think we should have to pay for that, because there always was, when I was a mayor, I think we had like 20 or 25 or even $30,000 in emergency. I mean, that's every year when we did the budget, it was there. And if nothing else happens in any other departments, but something happens here, we shouldn't have to worry about paying Desiree worrying about her budget and going to council and get the pay back. It
I
should
agree
just
with you,
be-
Gary, but I don't know that that's the reality we're facing,
I think this
and
is
that's a tough pill
I
to swallow.
think this is a very good draft. If anybody has anything they want to tweak about it, let's tweak it and then finalize it next month, and then our version of it, and then go back to Adam and have him and the mayor have a go at it and see if it works. It's gonna take a couple months, okay? Well, I really like.
The MOU you're talking about.
Yes.
The MOU.
The MOU, and I really like this idea, we get something on paper that who's the shared responsibilities, what we can expect, what the city's gonna expect from us, and I really like having that idea of having that plan of repairs for the library, set in stone, so it's not a surprise in 2027, oopsie,
Yeah.
we didn't catch that, sorry. And, I think it's not a law, it's a policy, and it can be amended if it's not working, okay? So, and I think going forward is the best plan. Let's go forward and work this out and not just say we can't do it, throw your hands up in the air and run away.
Do we have a resolution on the infrastructure committee, or do we wanna mull it over and maybe also have that as an agenda item for the next meeting? Or do we feel like,
I think it should be ad hoc, and then we write it into the library bylaws eventually. But
We,
start off as an ad hoc.
okay,
that does sound like a good idea, ad hoc. Let's just see what the time requirements are. Do we need to meet every month? Do
Yeah.
we need to meet 3 months in a row and not meet for 2 months?
okay. And maybe the finance committee will meet at a separate time to look at the MOU and generate some edits to bring back to the board meeting next time.
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna move on to discuss the strategic planning activation worksheet and plan and set 2024 priorities.
Hey, Lauren, before we move to that, can we just make a decision about the timing about the phone system?
I think Ben was gonna get back to us next month with some concrete numbers. Is that,
Right.
I mean, isn't that a long time?
I don't think it's critical, we still, so one line went down, one line went down
Okay.
and they were able to move it. So we still have 2 working lines and all of the phones still work, so we're not short or anything, so.
But I think it's something that next month we gotta move on.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
And hopefully by then, Ben will have some more information. We won't forget it, Mary.
Okay.
Okay. How do we wanna undertake this? You just wanna read it?
So more prioritization, right?
Right, well, and there were other activities, so staff and I had met at the end of last year and kind of determined what we thought was feasible to get done, what were some of the more important things to get done, like the procedure manual and standards and things like that, so I guess to ask if the board agrees with what the staff had picked here for tasks, or if there was something else that was more important, and then just to prioritize, like, what are the top ones, so.
I mean, I think on the first page, the last row, improve communications and relationship building with the city and the county to shore up official channels of support for the library. I think that's important. I think we're well on our way to doing that, and I think that should be a priority. I don't know that it needs to be top priority, but that will only bode well for us for come budget time.
When I looked through the year, like that was one of my top priorities as well as the first one, so improving staff capacity.
And that, I marked that too.
Yeah.
Marked it.
I mean, I noted it, that's,
Okay.
I agree,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, any other thoughts on the first goal of positioning our future? Okay, of course, restarting a fundraising committee is important too, that's on the second page. Alright, next goal, optimizing our spaces.
So we're like, what are we talking about downstairs?
Any and all.
Because I really think we can maybe work on optimizing the basement down here. I'm sorry, the lower level, it's not really basement. Just make it, re-examining some of the rooms and stuff, and how the furniture is, the lack of furniture. Even the workspace down here, can we do something with that? I mean, I don't think those are maybe big things, but we need to think about what we can maybe declutter and get rid of. I have no problem dumpstering things.
The OACF does have a grant available, the deadline is mid-April. So it's for kind of capital, like minor capital improvement things or technology. So I was thinking of writing a grant for the Jorgensen room to convert that to get like a sofa and a love seat and a coffee table to make it more into a lounge.
Okay.
But we did get a grant from the OACF, the same grant last year for the Meeting Owl and laptop, and they were very competitive last year, and they only fully funded 20% of the applicants. So since we got one last year, I'm not overly confident that we would get a second one, but it doesn't hurt to apply.
Yeah.
So if that's something that sounds of
I
interest.
kind of feel that we should have more of a plan for the downstairs too, like the workspace and some of the other rooms and how we're, I don't think it has to be a big thing, but maybe have a plan like, it would be nice where the used books are over here, if they were someplace else and that was a little area down there with a table and a chair and some sofa that you can sit and, I don't know, do whatever. I don't know, that's not maybe a good idea. But I think maybe these are things that maybe we could do to kind of freshen up the basement. And maybe it doesn't have to be like a big thing, but we need to have a plan.
Yeah, Will's did a comparison of all libraries about our size, and our square footage is huge compared to all of them. I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
That we have this great asset down here, with that usage of.
And I know it gets a lot of use. And that's another thing, can we start tracking room usage?
It's on the statistics page.
I missed it, I'm sorry. I thought it was and I missed it.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, the fourth row in that goal where it says increase access to and use of library resources and programs by identifying existing obstacles, physical and virtual, for users. I put on there signage and wayfinding. I think we have pretty good signage and wayfinding right now, but I think with the renovation, you know, everything's gonna change. And I know, having worked and been a user in Berlin, the signage and wayfinding there is basically non-existent. So I think it's important that we keep that in the forefront of our mind as we start to actually realize the benefits of the renovation, because there's nothing worse than wanting to find something in a library and not knowing where to go because there's no signage to point you there.
I think that's a very good idea, signs don't cost much. And even maybe a little, you were here map out front to help you find something. So it's a worthy idea, I think, so that maybe someone's coming here they don't come here very often.
Question, this circulates, this can circulate
Yeah.
or no? Okay,
Any group can use it here. It's open to groups to use here in the
got it,
library.
okay.
What about your idea with the business center? Is that done, or is there stuff that needs to be done for that, or where does that stand?
No, we haven't done anything with that yet. That would basically, probably cleaning up some of the things in the copy room and just adding some tools, there. I mean, staff has talked a little bit about, do we offer a public laminator or not? Cause that's not a service we offer right now, but I know some other libraries offer that. So, I mean, so that would be something that'd be easy to do, so.
Is there someone on your staff that you can, assign that to and let that be their project?
Mm-hmm, yeah. That'd be fun, so, yeah.
Okay.
In the first row under this goal, all the way on the right where it says notes, comments, WHS, is that Wisconsin Historical
Yes.
Society? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the Friends were interested in adding museum passes for a while, and we have one, and it's, but it's only for the Children's Museum in Fond du Lac, and it gets you into the Sheboygan one also, you know, so there's a very limited audience, so it's not like it's out all the time, and we have had requests from patrons, you know, are we gonna be getting more, you know, things for adults, we've had requests for the zoo. So we're still looking at it, the Friends, you know, before COVID, were very gung-ho about doing this, and now seem not so much. And I also had asked if Winnifox would be willing to look into this so that 30 different libraries aren't having to call all of these museum places. So they do have a new director at Mark Kazan, and he actually did this at his previous job in Mayville. So he and Winnifox are going to be doing some research on this for the libraries, so we don't have to be making these calls, so. But yeah, that is still something I'm very interested in moving forward with, and if the Friends don't fund it, I'm looking at taking it out of operational funds, but.
With state parks, and if someone Fox,
So the state park passes, it has been a WLA initiative, and we did not like how that worked. There's not, so the pass that we have right now circulates, and we actually get checkouts, so it counts for checkouts. The state park passes, you buy them, and you have to pay $5 per pass, and it's not a checkout, you just give it to the person, and you had to write the date on it that they were going to use it. And it's only a couple dollar discount from what the pass would normally cost a person, and it's a one-time thing. So they are talking about they would have to change state statute for some reason, about getting an annual pass that would circulate. Like, so if they did that, we'd be very interested. But these daily passes, it would just be money going out the door. So, yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next goal, embedding in our community. I mean, I think all of these are really good. I love the partnerships highlighted in here. I like that our staff members are members of local organizations and they can kind of keep library in the forefront when they do presentations. Go ahead.
No, I just have a question. Is it possible that, maybe this is too hands-on, that someone from the library, I think we already do this, doesn't Susie go over to the senior citizens over at the Parks and Rec building over there? She spends time over there with them, doesn't she?
Not regularly, but we're partnering on some programs for the summer reading program, where we'll go on for performance. She has done some classes over there, so she has a class coming up over there later in March.
Does she do like helping with hoopla and some of the tech stuff?
Yeah, it'll be a tech class over there.
Because like hoopla would be a great thing if, like I want to read a book and hoopla has books on there.
Yeah.
And if you're reading them on like a screen, you can zoom in and suddenly it's large print.
Yeah.
So, modest price tablet would do that, I think. So I think that's pretty worthy, so,
Yeah.
she'd get some applications for her own library services too later. Get a few cards up, she's already doing that, so.
Yeah, yep, we are.
Do we do anything with homebound patrons?
We offer that service.
Okay.
I don't know that we have a lot right now. We do have deposit collections at 6 facilities.
Okay.
So, and those get switched out every other month. So,
Cool. Love it.
Who do we feel is our underserved community or communities that we can do a better job with, or who are not participating in the library, or our opportunities for programming, or working with the school district, or the Spanish-speaking community, or I'm just curious who we think, not being a person who's lived in Ripon for very long, who's not getting served by the library that we would like to serve?
I think the Spanish language community,
Okay,
so that would be one.
Yeah, I think if we partner with some Spanish-speaking people in the community here, they could help us steer us toward what kinds of things that they would like to read, maybe some of their friends and stuff, so kind of books and articles and, I don't know if Hoopla has this Spanish-speaking stuff. Do they have anything like that on there?
I know Overdrive does. Libby
So
does.
getting them hooked up into the electronic stuff, I mean, like every kid has something in their hands, and lots of adults do too. Like we are right here doing that. So steering it that way might be something that we could do. I think we could, get hooked in with, So that's my thought.
Okay, let's move to the next goal, sharing our story.
So I kind of think that that activity to the optional one, advertise small meeting space available for small business meetings or board meetings. I forget, do we have a policy for the room? Do we charge something? We changed that. We talked about
The
it.
meeting room policy.
So
Yeah.
we charge if they want to have a party here,
Right.
like birthday party,
Because
or,
that's like, paper and cake and stuff.
right,
Thing.
or sales if somebody wanted to sell something, like a
Right.
Tupperware party or something
Right.
like that. So,
So, but if they wanted just, I want to sit down with my nonprofit board of 5, 6 people.
right, we
We
don't
don't charge for that. Okay. Could you also just, I know we haven't done that birthday thing very long, can you start tracking that for us?
We've had one.
We've
So,
had one.
Yes.
Well, advertising.
There weren't any issues with it at all. It went very well. They cleaned up after themselves, so.
Advertising that
Right.
would be an idea too. We could have a birthday party here. This is what, where it's a nominal charge just so we'll make sure everything is cleaned up and do it during hours and don't make a ruckus and we're good, I guess.
Right, so
Something
I'm
like that.
hoping that this summer, when I have more pages available to work, it relieves some of the desk staff from their shifts. And I would like to focus on having Libby not have as much desk time so she can create some of these generic marketing things. Right now she's basically just able to keep up with the promotional materials for the programs that we're having. So I'd like her to have time to do some of these generic things so that we can, so that if it's a slow week, we can put something out like, hey, did you know we have Wi-Fi that you can access from the parking lot? Do you know we have Roku's here? Something that's not gonna change and is gonna be evergreen and isn't program specific, so. But yeah, so meeting rooms would be one of those things to promote.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Okay, I do have a question here. Cause I know the city's looking for like a part-time HR communications person that's gonna like take all the departments like DPW, police department, so any other kind of communications, they're gonna be doing that. They're gonna be working with the different entities of the city to like craft a coherent message for people like on Facebook. Okay, we have this happening, so Adam doesn't have to like be that person. He can pass this off to someone else. It's just kind of a reconfiguration of the front office. Here's one of the Karens is retiring, the building clerk. I kind of think that we would be separate from that, but having someone who was consistently talking to everybody in the library, you know, what's going on with adult books and services, what's going on with the kids. I think someone who is going to work together and craft a message and one person doing the social media stuff and working on that a bit better than maybe what was going on now. So I don't know how that's gonna work out, but I think that's something that's worthy to work on because I think that goes back into letting people know that we have meeting rooms here. That we have other things going on here because, I mean, it's okay, and there's nothing horrible wrong with it, but I think we can come up with something a little bit better. I mean, nothing stays the same all the time.
Right. Right. And hopefully when the city gets a new person, we can cross promote, you know, if they can share our events, we can share their things, you know, so.
I think that's a good plan.
All right, any other thoughts or questions, comments on this?
So are we here to help Desiree prioritize that was, so we're, is that our purpose in discussing this, was to,
Yes.
okay, so Desiree, did you get enough, I guess that's the question, did you hear enough to go for it?
Yes.
Okay,
And we can have a
Yes.
check-in then in the middle of the year, I think would be good,
So
so.
what, do you wanna wait, 2 months, 3, 4 months? So what is this, June? I don't think June is too soon or too late.
I'll let you defer since it's summer reading, whenever.
Well, probably June before the board, we may have board turnover.
Yeah, okay.
so.
I just wanna just check.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't wanna just, we forgot, 2
No.
months.
No, let's do it in
Sure.
June
Yeah.
before,
I think
before the board turns over.
sooner than later is better. I mean, okay, so we don't really change anything, but we're keeping this on the agenda and we're staying aware of what's going on. Maybe, you know,
Well, and the goal also is the spreadsheet, like, we'll start updating it.
right,
That's-
It'll be a living
And then you have the link, and so I can just put
right,
out, here's the link, and I've updated it
I
for
think
this
that's a
month,
great plan.
so.
Okay, so we're gonna set the date and time for the next board meeting. Be aware that it's the first week of April, April 2nd. We've got some spring break time away happening, so that will still allow for 4 weeks between the April 2nd and the end of April meeting. A Zoom link will be provided if needed, and make sure that you get your agenda suggestions to Desiree by Wednesday the 20th.
Janet, are you back by the beginning of April?
we're back soon.
yeah, I'll be back, both of those, yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we need a Zoom link then.
Okay.
Okay, so when's the next meeting? We're not doing it.
April
April
2nd.
2nd.
Okay, so that's, okay.
I'll be at the public safety meeting in Pilot, so I won't be here.
I have a question before we close the meeting.
Sure.
On the Ripon Public Library Fund with the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation, there is a $5,000 program expense. What was that for?
That was last fall, Ingberg Anderson updated our numbers, and the board had approved that expenditure.
Okay, and then my second question regarding the fund is, do we have, who's reviewing the performance of the fund? And how often are we doing that?
That the community foundation annually brings in their investor, it's usually sometime in the spring. And anybody is welcome to go, I typically go to it and they go through the funds. Also, if we ever wanna have Carleen Grabner here, who's the director of donor services, she will happily come and attend a board meeting and answer questions like this about their investments. So,
In terms of the performance of the
Right, they
Anybody
bring
else
in their
on that?
investment company once a year, and people who have funds at the community foundation can go and listen to this breakfast meeting that they have.
Okay, but my question is, do we get quarterly reporting? What kind of other reporting do we get? We're only told once a year about the performance?
That's typically it. I mean, like I said, Carlene is willing to come and talk about it.
We don't get to, there's no reporting in that,
In
that's
between.
highly.
They don't push it out to us, so.
I guess we could request it, we could have a standing quarterly meeting if we'd like to have that.
We should, our investment policy should point to that. How often we're reviewing and what information we're receiving. That should be in the investment policy.
Okay.
So I'd like to have that be discussed at the next meeting.
All right, we will add that on the agenda, thank you, Mary. And any other questions, comments? All right, we're gonna adjourn, thanks everybody.